Hello, this is Dale, and join us and find out what we have to say. What do we have to say today, Mike?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, okay.
We have literally nothing here, nothing on the show tonight, even though it's Thursday. No, we're
Yes,
jam packed full.
we are, and we're going to be talking mostly about money, 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 money. So today is Thursday, and that's when the commissioners have their administration meeting. Simon Hare was not there today. They were talking about a variety of things having to do with county business, and it was fairly revealing. There are a couple of larger stories. There are several smaller stories. We'll just go in order of the way that things happened. So one of the things which is fairly good that Wally Hicks has been able to do is the commissioners have signed a deal with, or will soon sign a deal with the Bureau of Land Management, BLM. No, not about miners, but about spraying. Spraying, yes, spraying the woods that are near the BLM forest parts. You know, it's divided into a checkerboard more than most other places in the state here in Josephine
With
County.
Agent Orange.
Well, that's not how they're making it into a checkerboard, but no, they're just simply spraying it for weed mitigation and that kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha.
And Wally Hicks,
Agent Orange is a defoliant, so I just thought
that's quite right. Yes,
yes.
And Wally Hicks was able to work something into the new contract with them. This is a small thing, but it is about money, so that we only need to be concerned about the part of our roads that are near the BLM property, or all we need to worry about is the part that affects the road right away that's near BLM. I'm not sure that that's going to make a lot of sense to you, but my point is that it used to say that we had to be worried about everything, and now all we have to worry about is the near the roads in the right of way. And so that potentially makes us less vulnerable to some kind of admonitions laid on us by BLM. So, okay, good. Nice
That's
catch.
good. I hate admonitions. Just
I don't even like to admit. Now then Scott Chansey comes in, and you know I like Scott, and he's talking about something called the congestion mitigation and air quality uh, uh, regulations. Congestion mitigation and air quality. And no, it's not about COPD. It has to do with some money that's coming down from the state, and it's over $1 million, well over $1 million. And thinking, well, okay, you know, this is the kind of thing they talk about in the little back room. These are the minutia. And he's saying, well, because we're getting some money come in, over $1 million, we'll now be able to fix sidewalks. Sidewalks. Congestion mitigation and air quality. Air quality.
This is stuff that's meant for larger cities where you actually have like traffic. Have you ever been in Grants Pass's rush hour? It goes, from if you get stuck in it, you might be in slow traffic from about 6th and M up to maybe just past Allen Creek, and then you're done. That's the extent of our congestion.
Well, we have some Allen Creek news, but yes, that's the congestion part of Grants Pass. So he's talking about this, and I actually went out into the hallway and left the camera unattended and said, "This is about sidewalks." Yes, apparently there are these gaps, not holes, but just gaps in the sidewalk where there's sidewalk, and then there's a few feet of a gap, and we're going to fill in the gaps with over $1 million out of our pockets, out of our other pocket, from the state, and we're going to use that to fill in these gaps. And why is Scott Chansey involved? Because
hey, I just want to say I want to be there. So you let me know where this is going to happen, because after they fill in the gaps with the $1 million, I'm going to come and scoop that stuff right up. Okay. That's foolish.
Money,
We shouldn't be
money,
doing that sort of thing.
$1 million to fill in the gaps in sidewalks, and it's involved with mass transit. Why? So that people find it easier to get to the bus stop. So they don't have to step over sidewalk, a little gravel, and sidewalk.
Yes.
Really?
We are becoming far too fragile, I believe. You know.
It's I guess it's better than in the old days, walking along wooden sidewalks and then every once in a while stepping in horse stuff, and then
Yes.
Mike, $1 million.
Well, wait a minute though. Where was the $1 million there for little bridges over the piles of horse poop back then? I mean, did they have that sort of thing going on? No. You know what? People stepped around it and they dealt with it. I think things are pretty good for us. Things are so good for us now that we're inventing hardships.
$1 million for gaps in sidewalks. Gaps. Yeah. Okay. He couldn't help pointing out that while the city recently, a year ago or so, paid $120,000 for bus stops, that our bus stops, just the ones with the seats, are costing us $800.
I thought it was 8,000.
No, he said $800 today. That's what he said. Okay, so for other people with just more money than they know what to do with, and there are people like that in our area.
Yes.
They still need to go out to fancy dinners and get together with the hoi polloi, and they need to celebrate the fact that they're doing fairly well, and they're social butterflies, even in Grants Pass. And so these social butterflies that are very, very interested in horses, okay, nice for you. Not necessarily in the horse poop that you step over, because that's going to be fixed up by $1 million in sidewalk gaps. But they're going to pay $50 a plate to get together at the fairgrounds. And, well, one could say, now, just wait a minute there, Mr. Matthews, why there's an auction that's involved in this. Yeah, I don't think they're coming just because of the auction, because as it turns out, there's no guide to the auction. No one knows what's going to be auctioned. They can't examine anything before it because those books weren't made up, and therefore they're paying $50 a plate. They don't know what's going to be auctioned. But the important thing is, just like a Rotary Club meeting, they'll be able to get together with their own kind, and they won't have to deal with the great unwashed, those that don't step around the stuff in the sidewalk. Why, they're going to get a chance to dress up and sit there at a table.
You know what? Listen, people want to do that. I don't have any problem with it. What's
great. There's nothing. Just, do we have an emergency supposedly about how we're going to have to rob from Peter to pay Peter? With taxes.
But what's the charity? What's the event? What's it for?
It's called Dinner at the Downs.
Okay.
It's about horses. People who like horses.
And what does that money go for?
To be sure to support the idea of having horses at the fairgrounds.
Oh, okay. Well, and so people are willing to come and pay $50 a plate or whatever to do that. Yes. Why don't we have one of those every month for the sheriff?
Because it would be serving horse meat, because there's not enough money. And the population.
No. Listen, this would be some event somewhere where you come in and you pay. Listen, when you pay $50 a plate, and there's a little profit left over. Just saying.
Well,
so
I
think that'd be fantastic. We could all go down there, and there could be really high priced beers and drinks and stuff like that, and we could all get hammered. And then when we leave there, they can hit us for DUIs, further helping the
And
sheriff
you can
pays
arrest those of
bills.
us who get involved in fistfights. You know,
Right.
if
Yes.
you're really interested in expensive beers, you go down for the big uh, monster truck rallies. You know, it's not about horses or monster horses. It's about monster horses. It's about, you know, big things that roar and shoot out flames, and people are screaming, and they're all wearing T-shirts, only T-shirts.
Yeah. Hey,
You
there's
know, it
some.
just
As my
different
wife
sides
always
of
says.
society. Yes, your
Yeah,
wife.
yes. My wife always says there's a butt for every seat, and that's a good thing.
But
You know.
but okay.
Yes.
It's nice that there are those who are just swimming in it, you know, and just want to spend it and enjoy
Listen,
themselves with their
and
social equivalents.
and unlike Dale, I am not a communist. I don't care if you want to take the money that you earned by legal means, by all means, spend it on whatever you want to. Even if it is to sit somewhere and eat dinner and look down your nose at the lesser people.
But don't tell me that you're concerned about the children and the fact that they don't have enough money and we don't have a place for them,
No,
and you would
no,
like
yeah.
everyone to pay higher taxes and then go to this thing and well, okay.
Well, good.
You
Then call those people, the few people that are actually doing that, by the way,
Yes.
out on their hypocrisy.
Well, I'm
you know,
kind
I
of
mean,
trying to do that, but okay, you
well,
just keep standing in my
well,
way.
no, yeah, but you're blaming all of everybody who likes horses. You guys are evil capitalist swine, and you know you really need to give more of your income to the great government. You know, come on.
Now,
Come
I don't
on.
want to give more of my income to the great government, but one thing I do object to, as I was trying to say earlier, is robbing from Peter to pay Peter
Yeah.
with these last taxes. I mean, these are the guys that are, well, it's just, you know, it's the same as buying you the money you'd spend on lobster dinner. Why, you could be, you know, really, this is when you hear about there's these shops in town, and God bless them, I'm glad they're making some kind of profit. I'm a capitalist, but they just can't stock enough diamond jewelry, really, in our town. Okay,
Uh,
you just hang on to your money and just do whatever you want to with it.
you know,
Okay.
you seem to be implying
Yeah.
that the shopkeepers that are doing good are somehow problematic in our community. What is that? I don't get that.
No, I think it's lovely, and I think that we should have this Paradise Ranch thing where people are flying in on their private jets to play
Hey,
golf here.
you know what?
That's lovely.
If the economy supports that, hallelujah.
Yeah, just be sure that your windows are tinted so as you drive through downtown Grants Pass with
I
the
don't
closed
care.
up shops,
I don't
you
care.
don't have to see them.
I don't even care. I don't even care.
Okay.
You know what? If they want to come in here and they want to be transported in a limo that has blinders on the side so no one can see, and then somebody holds up a shade while they get out of their limo and get into the 115 broiler to have their steak, I don't care, because they came here and wanted to spend you know, a couple $100 on an overpriced dinner. You know, what the heck?
I would rather spend my evening here with you.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Well, we're doing service for the public, and
Okay.
they feel that that's exactly what they're doing. And then, you know, the people that are there selling their cattle and their sheep and stuff like that, we're going to support them with our tax dollars so they can maintain their old-fashioned existence at the county fair.
That's where you run into the problem with me. I don't care if they're doing whatever they're doing, but I don't want to pay taxes to support that. I personally think, and this is going to get me skewered by a
I'm
lot
already,
of people,
so you might as well.
but the 4-H thing that we all pay for in the county. Oh my God! Listen, support your own little 4-H thing. Don't take it out of my pocket, for crying out loud. You know, I'm very happy that you want to raise pigs and horses and whatever, but do it on your dime.
Well, you see, many people feel that if we don't prop up that lifestyle, that it's going to just disappear, and then we will no longer.
Okay, and so let's subsidize buggy whips. You know,
Very nice.
Well, the last time I checked, I'm eating meat on a daily basis, and bacon is pretty popular. So I think that lifestyle will stick around as long as people can make a profit at it. And if you can't make a profit at it, well, maybe you shouldn't be pushing your kids towards to try to do something for profit that doesn't make profit. That's boy. Now I've really probably alienated half of the county there. Sorry, that's
Well, it's your opinion. Everybody has one or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, the county government has also decided that they're going to take economic development money. We've alluded to this before. And the best way to help support our economy here and to develop is to take that economic development money. They've now set aside $25,000. See, that's a tiny amount. And they're going to use that to help pay salaries of county employees. Why? Because don't you understand that higher salaries for county employees is equal to economic development in Josephine County?
Okay, but you could save that $25,000 and just go down and talk to the people at the coffee place. What is it, Rogue Roasters?
Yes.
And say, hey, listen, we just gave you 50 grand, so we'd like some free coffee cards for our employees. There you go. Took care of that.
We would help support them, except they would be giving it up for free. Yeah, right. Well, okay. Now there is a good side.
Oh, we gave them 50 grand for crying out loud.
And it was a gift.
Oh,
they'll never pay that back. They don't have to pay it back. They're not going to pay that back. Okay. All right. So there's a good side to this thing about about planning. That's where some of these jobs are going to be paid for with your tax dollars to help with economic development. Whatever. It's one of the biggest employers in the area is our government. Yay! Let's make them the biggest by far.
Yes.
So they're talking about putting the planning director together with sort of economic development, and they're going to call it planning and community development, which is totally different than economic development. Don't get confused about this. So planning and community development. There is a potential positive. So we'll have to watch this. That could come out of that. This is a politics show. We comment on it, so that's why we're telling you about it. Community development, supposedly the idea behind that is instead of funding, let's say a coffee shop that is non-traded sector, we're just selling widgets to each other, where community development is supposed to be about raising the infrastructure, making it better for everybody so everybody can compete better. And they're thinking, well, if we put this in the planning department, at least I hope this is their thinking, that means that planning might say, what's the best thing for community development? I think it might be lowering the costs or declaring a 2-month holiday on all construction fees added on top, and that
sounds
way
fantastic. I doubt very seriously that would come out of the mind of government. I just don't think it will.
Well,
because that actually I think is helpful.
Well, they did that under Sandy Casanelli. She suggested it, and they went with it.
Yeah, but then they threw her out on her ear.
Well, that's the price you pay, Sandy.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, sadly.
Yeah. So now there's something called the Infrastructure Finance Authority. Infrastructure Finance Authority. And Cheryl Walker's been, on the phone with the current person that's in charge of that and the past person in charge of that. And she says, no, as far as the North Valley Industrial Park goes, well, let's keep in mind that there is, let's see, the first claim was that we need to have better sewer system out in Merlin because of the Parasites Ranch. Okay. Well, that is pushing up daisies now. Okay. So that's not the reason behind it. And that's where all the people are going to fly in and spend their money. And they were going to come to downtown Grants Pass and buy some pie. Now, we would have to supply them, or somebody would have to supply them with the limousine because they couldn't fit that on their jet.
Right. Yes.
Right. Well,
there you go.
making our depressed economic area safe for people to drive around without having to, look at all the other people around them. I'm on my way to my $50 plate dinner. So get
You
out
might
of the
be
way.
presuming you might be presuming a few things about these people who would be flying
They
in.
would fly in to play golf. Okay. Well, how lovely.
Listen,
I just think it's
listen. Their business acumen is being represented by the
Sarah
flourishing
Walker.
Paradise Ranch.
Paradise Ranch. That's right.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
Paradise Ranch. So then the new reason that we needed to we need to have a whole new kind of clover leaf that's got 18 parts to it, and now we're going to need to have all kinds of structure out there. It is funding infrastructure because there's going to be this huge growth out there. Remember when Moody's came in and Simon Hare talked to him? He says, things are going very well here. Really, this is opposite that they told us in order to pass the levy. So we can rob from Peter to pay Peter. I love that analogy. But he told Moody's how great things. And so Moody's puts out this report. Why? We're going to raise. Don't forget what Moody's is for, so they can borrow money. Do what? Okay, so and Moody says, well, the very best thing that's going on in all of Josephine County is this lovely project, a manor development project out at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And a feeling that they were sold a bill of goods too. Yep. What's happening with that, by the way? They just had a meeting of the Airport Advisory Board where they were talking about this. Have you heard any report about that? That was Monday.
No.
Now,
No,
we've had a weekly business session between. There hasn't been a chance to tell everybody. It's funny. There hasn't been a chance to tell us much of anything recently.
Yeah, I think that news will come sort of like the Friday night document dumps for the federal government, where it's going to be a 3-day weekend, and then they put out all this news on a Friday night when nobody cares.
Well, this is when they say to me, now, Mr. Matthews, why don't you get with the program? What they mean is, part of what they mean is, would you stop telling everybody things until we're ready to announce it? I mean, it's going to be in the Courier when the time comes when we issue a press release, because they're going to write their story based on the press release. We haven't sent out a press release about this, so you're telling everybody the news before we're ready for them to hear it. Stop it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Right. So another little thing that's happening is as it turns out, well, the IFA, okay, the Infrastructure Finance Authority. So the next thing that Cheryl Walker said to him was, well, you need to keep in mind that we've got a rest stop, a state-designed rest stop out there, and that's going to need a lot of sewer system. We're going to need a whole sewer infrastructure to help fund that rest stop. Well, then that sort of evaporated. Really?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a state highway. I mean, doesn't ODOT take care of that?
Oh, would you stop being logical? Mike, come on now.
I'm
We
sorry.
need this huge infrastructure out there because
I have
even a rest stop.
I've seen ODOT people working in those rest stops before, so that has to be true.
Okay, all right, so that's gone. Then it was the school out there. It was an elementary school. Why, what about that elementary school? We're going to need this for the elementary school. And then that evaporated. Really? And then it was the high school out there. Why? The high school needs this. Why? They're desperate for it. And then it turns out the high school says, no, we're not. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're desperate for it. No, we're not. Well, we're putting you down on this. She actually sent the information to the IFA saying that they're on board. She told us in a meeting in the little back room that they're on board. Well, this was news to the school district. They said, no, we're not on board. Well, she's saying you're on board. What do you mean she's saying we're on board? She wrote a letter. She even said that she wrote the letter saying that you are fully on board. Now, why would she do that? Because it's going to look better to the Infrastructure Finance Authority. So apparently she gets some feedback saying, hey, we've heard from somebody. I wonder who told the IFA that this was not true. I wonder who that could be. And they said, Cheryl Walker, apparently. Apparently they're not fully on board. Why? Have you heard from the school board? No, we heard from some citizen. Really? Well, then that evaporated. And then she talked about the airport, because Larry Graves, the airport manager, he's fully on board. And, well, we're really going to need that here for the airport. And Cheryl Walker said, we could, I'm not making this up. It sounds like I am, but I'm not. We could water the runways. water the runways. The runways? The runways. You know, they're not even grass. Why are we watering runways?
I guess to rinse them off. Might get dirty.
Okay, so here's the best news. Now, we're going to talk to you a little about Rhodes dollars because they did talk about that today. In fact, we're going to talk to you a lot. We're going to play a long clip, and you're going to say parts of this are boring. Get over it. We're hardy Americans, but parts of it are very interesting. No, first the last thing. First the last. Okay, you know what I mean. Just before we do that, we're going to tell you what Keith Heck brought up at the end of the meeting. I know the meetings are long, but you don't have to sit through them. I do. Okay, even Mike doesn't have to sit through them, and he's laughing to himself. Ha ha! I don't have to sit through them.
Yeah,
well, I
that's a
do, and
great deal.
the most interesting, he gets to look at social media. That poor guy. Okay, and it's insulting. These people are saying insulting things. Oh, the commissioners are they're lovely, so you've got a really good deal, Mike. So you always have to watch through to the very last moment because you never know what they're going to say, and it's not on the agenda. And so Keith says to Cheryl, Simon's not there. He says, by the way, I always pay attention to what he says, by the way. It looks like in 12 years, the North Valley Industrial Park is going to belong to Grants Pass City. What?
Yeah. That's like an atom bomb.
What? We're putting all this money, and she says, oh no, she's genuinely surprised. You can tell when she's surprised. She stops looking down and scribbling at 100 miles an hour, and she looks up, she says, what? And he says, yeah, you're going to need to check this out. She says, no. The city may own the land under the sewer system, system. What? I don't even understand that. But no, not all of it. And Keith's wrong half the time, a quarter of the time. He's wrong a lot. But he was so sure of himself. And he says, nope, the city will own that in 12 years. She's like, no. He says, you need to check it out with the city. No, this can't be right. Says, you need to check it out with the city. So who's right? One person that's wrong a lot of the time, or the other person that's wrong a lot of the time? I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one because now is it going to be because the urban growth boundary is going to move out there and it's going to become part of Grants Pass? Because what about Merlin? What is Merlin? Is Merlin just that area that's over further toward the river? Or,
now this is the origin of the famous black map. The map that they gave to the public that was black on black when the legends were all black, and darker black. Okay, this is something that Sandy Casanelli brought up. Oh, not Sandy Casanelli again. You severely underestimated her ability to look for things and find where the problems are. And she says, why is this map black? And I held it up too, and I said, yeah, I saw the same thing. Black, and black. Black on black. What kind of map is black on black?
Racist. That's the problem.
And so this was the famous map that suddenly included after all this time of the urban growth boundary, and let's take a look at what is Grants Pass and what does it really mean, and then suddenly there's this little part up here, and it's like twisty like this. So what the heck is this? Because she lives in Merlin. Well, it now includes part of Merlin. What do you mean it now includes part of Merlin? Where did that come from? Well, Midget, didn't you notice it before? I live in Merlin, she says, and no, I never noticed that before. Can I have a map of it? Oh, they gave her a map, all right, a black on black map. Everything is all blacked out. They spent more on toner than the paper cost, okay? And so now it turns out where we're hearing from Keith Heck that whole North Valley Industrial Park, if he's right, will end up being part of Grants Pass. Now, tell me, Mike or anybody, why are we spending all this time and
Yes.
effort and money instead of spending it on things like, oh, we can't possibly spend it on roads patrol. Don't you understand? This money is set aside like they did with the PEG fund, like they did with the roads fund. Why, it can't possibly go any other place. And then it turns out, oh, oops, well, did we say it can't possibly go any other place? We meant it can certainly go to other places, and we've done it in the past, but now we don't want it to go to other places. What? So let's spend a
Yes.
lot of money developing something where we're going to give it away to somebody else, which is the next little story, and then roads. So they talked today about the intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with the city, with Grants Pass City, about Allen Creek. And I paid out of my pocket for you, just for you in our audience, over $6 to get this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the IGA between the city of Grants Pass. Has anybody else looked at this thing? And this and Grants and Josephine County. And basically, what it says is, you may think that you live in Josephine County and that you elected these goofy commissioners to be, to represent you, but actually, they're signing away your property rights to the city. And then the city gets to
Mm.
decide whether you get to keep your property or whether they're going to need part of it. Well, they're going to offer
Mm.
you a fair price. And if you kick about it, why, then it's going to go to negotiation. But it's not Grants Pass. You don't get to come to a county commissioners meeting and get your 3 minutes. You don't go there anymore. You'll now need to go over to the city because they're signing a carte blanche deal because they don't know what the plan is. They've got a general idea of what the plan is, but nobody knows what the plan is. And the state says, ODOT says, Oregon Department of Transportation says, we will not really allow you to go ahead with the plans until you have on paper the deal signed by the county commissioners signing away your rights as a property owner. Now, maybe everybody on Allen Creek Road loves this idea. I don't think so, but maybe they do. So what area is next? Maybe your area.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you ever asked yourself, why do some people move out to the middle of the not Australian, but Alaskan outback? This is the answer to that question. Government may come along and take your land away for a fair price, of course.
Well, there's a tiny little thing, and we started a war about this taxation without representation. And now you don't have any representation because the county has decided to sign it away. Eminent domain, the two words that should send shivers down any American spine. And once they decide they need part of your property, they're just going to take it and they're going to offer you a fair price. But you have no choice. Lovely.
Neato.
Money, money, money. So, okay, now the last part here is about what are the commissioners going to do about the road dollars and assigning road dollars to the sheriff's department. And we talked with the sheriff. Now, I got the sheriff on the phone after this meeting with the county commissioners. And you'll hear the two of them, because Simon wasn't there, mentioning several times, so what do you think the sheriff will think about this? Well, what do you think? Have anyone talked with the sheriff about this? No, we haven't had a chance to talk with the sheriff. Well, we really need to get his input. Well, first of all, based on some legal precedent a couple of years ago, maybe the commissioners shouldn't be involved at all. All they can do is give the money to the sheriff, and then he decides.
Right.
Okay, that was a legal case with the previous Dave Daniel. Yes, there were two of them, in case you wondered, and they spelled their name exactly the same. And the previous one said, hey, I'm an elected official. Hands off my money. You give me the money, I'll decide how to spend it. Okay. But no, the commissioners are involved up to their necks in this, and they bring in Arthur O'Hare, the finance director. And now, in a video clip, an extended video clip that we're going to show you, they're talking about what could possibly happen. The reason we're playing this whole thing for you, and you might say at certain points, well, it's not as snappy and as interesting and as funny as Dale and Mike. Is anything? But
yes.
What you need to do, I think, is you need to look at this, listen to what it is that they're saying. When I called the sheriff about it, I said, do you know anything about this? Why don't, instead of me doing all the talking, why don't you tell them, Mike, based on what I told you about the conversation with the sheriff, what he said, and what you and I are gonna do next about that? Please tell them about it.
From what you told me, he doesn't know anything about this. He hasn't had any conversations with them about the subject that they're talking about.
And so, where did the sheriff get the news, Mike?
Well, he got that from you, Dale.
Well, from us, yes, from us. And so, when we meet with him on Monday, we're going to get his impressions about this, and we're going to share them with you.
Yes, I hear he does, a pretty snappy, soupy sales impression.
Yeah, well, nobody's going to know what that means except for a certain age group. So, Fang. It's a little disconcerting. And one of the things I'd like you to keep track of is, as Arthur O'Hare, they're putting restrictions on themselves. As Arthur O'Hare is talking about, from his opinion, and the sheriff and the commissioners are sharing theirs too. Why are they putting restrictions on themselves? We'll give you just the basics, and then you can watch the video along with us. It costs about, the sheriff confirmed this, about $125,000, $125,000 for each sheriff's deputies. That's approximately right, a little less for those with less experience, a little more in between, and also for their cost of running the vehicles and etc. Not for the vehicles, but the cost of running the vehicles, about $125,000. So twice that, 2 deputies would be $250,000, $250,000. 4 deputies would be $500,000. 8 deputies would be $1 million, which is what Peggy Goodwin, also known as Margaret Goodwin, she has an AKA, who knows why, she's saying, well, what about $1 million? And the only reason she came back with $500,000 later is that there was no second for $1 million, and they still didn't approve this idea. Now they're thinking about it fairly clearly. And where do you think that pressure is coming from? Mike, is it coming from the readers of the Daily Courier?
Well, they don't know about this, so it couldn't be coming from them. So,
well, Mike, is it coming from the listeners to KJO Radio?
I don't know. There may be some people that watch our show and see our videos that also hear KJO Radio from time to time.
Yeah,
so,
but KJO's not reporting it. There's nobody
Yes.
that's reporting this. It's not a story. According to Jim Moore, it's just not going to be a story. Mark Seligman called Jim Moore today. Okay, now you need to be careful with Mark. If you talk to Mark right after something happens, he's on the spot. If you talk to him a couple of days later, the details start to get a little hazy, and you talk to him in several days, he says, who's Mark? No, I'm kidding, Mark. You know that I am. So anyway, so he talked today with Jim Moore, and he's talking to him about another subject, about marijuana. Well, go figure. And he says, well, how come you're not reporting this thing about Darren Fowler and his potential? We're going to play that clip for you. Just hold on. Because when you're watching and say, how long is this clip? I told you already. Okay, so Mark's problem is that Darren Fowler, as the mayor, is apparently profiting, because he's an electrical contractor, from putting grow systems, lights and stuff like that, in buildings, and only in buildings, apparently, if you grow your marijuana indoors. Okay, okay. So
what
do you think?
Okay, hang on a second here. Are you telling me that he has contracts now, that people now are confirmed to be paying this guy to do this stuff? Is that what you're saying?
He admitted that, yes.
Okay, so he has contracts to put in grow system lights for people now.
At least one so far, and others planned, according to Darren Fowler. Yes.
Okay.
So Mark Seligman calls Jim Moore, and he says, how come you're not reporting this? Do you know anything about this? And Jim Moore said, oh, yes, I know something about it. And Mark Seligman said, what? You know something about it? Yeah, well, he said that a long time ago. Well, Jim Moore of the Daily Courier, why aren't you reporting this? I mean,
isn't that somehow a conflict with this whole grow ban thing?
No. Why wouldn't you report this? I mean, what makes you into a reporter or pretending to be a reporter if you're not going to report the news? And he hung up on him.
Yes.
So Mark's like, the guy hung up on me. So he calls him back and he says, I hung up on you. He says, yeah, I noticed. And he says, now listen, this is important. But you got to catch Mark right after it happens. Sorry, Mark, but that's true about you, buddy. Okay. So he says, yeah, I hung up on you. Well, why'd you do that? He says, if you ever want to be quoted by me ever again, you're going to stop impugning my reputation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a reporter that is threatening to stop being a reporter if you say bad things about him. Is that the way? Is that where
he should be concerned about his reputation being impugned, but not by Mark Seligman?
All right, that's not the point. No, the point is you're going to refuse to be a journalist if people say things about you. You're going to stop being. How will we know the difference?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and then the other thing is there's a story that was shared with us by Mark Seligman. So Mark knows what's happening when it comes to marijuana. Okay.
Right.
So there's a story in the Oregonian. We talked with the guy from the Oregonian, the reporter that did it. And he's got this aerial picture. And I'm thinking, that's interesting. Well, it's an aerial picture. Are you ready for this? There's lots of news in tonight's show. It's an aerial picture of property that's owned by Cheryl Walker. Really? In the Oregonian? Uh-huh. I just feel bad that they got it before we did. And as it turns out, Cheryl Walker has worked out a deal with Cliff Thomason. Cliff Thomason, the famous guy that was saying, no, if you take 10% out of the sheriff's thing, out of the sheriff's money, well, he gets back 15%. Cliff, no. Oh, no. I meant to say it'll only cost the sheriff 0.5%. Cliff, what are you talking about? And Cliff Thomason, the famous guy that wanted to use economic development money and have the county give it to him so he can go up and lobby our state senators and representatives to give us more economic development money. But you can't do that according to legal counsel. It would be illegal, okay? So this is Cliff Thomason. So Cliff Thomason stops me in the hallway a couple of days ago, and he's starting to talk about hemp. Hemp? What is this? What is everybody crazy around here? No, do you realize, Dale Matthews, that hemp is much more profitable than marijuana? I said, Cliff. No. On a pound per pound basis, Cliff. No, it really is. It's much more profitable. I said, what? Are you smoking this? No, that's not possible. Marijuana, whether you like it or not, is going to be more profitable than hemp. So why is he saying this? Why is he stopping me in the hallway to tell me this? Well, as it turns out, Cliff Thomason is a real estate broker, and he's said to be part of a team that's working on Cheryl Walker's property. Cheryl Walker's property, the one that sent off the letter saying, hey, let's not destroy the hemp products in this town. Well, to grow hemp. Okay, there's several interesting things about this. One is there are restrictions up north about growing grass. I don't mean that kind of grass, just plain old grass, because one kind of grass apparently cross-pollinates with another and makes it impossible. I don't like the idea of cutting back on people, but tell them and you don't like that either. As soon as you just get a chance to do whatever you want to. But Mike, talk a little bit, would you, about why when there's competing products, you have to make choices? Please do.
Well, in the case of this particular crop, if you grow hemp and marijuana right next to one another, you're going to degrade both. The THC level in the marijuana is going to be lesser, which makes it undesirable. Not only that, you will have pollinated it, so it's also going to be full of seeds, and people who smoke it don't like that. And then, of course, the undesirable characteristics, because hemp is grown exclusively for fiber, so they want the certain traits of the fiber, and when you get the seed to begin with, it already has those traits in it. And when you grow it and you cross pollinate, you're going to be lessening the you're going to be degrading both products is the point. And
wow,
so
I'm impressed. For a non-smoker, you know an awful lot about weed.
I attended, because Bad County covered it, the little marijuana summit thing, and Peter Gendron laid all this out for us. and essentially, I guess that there is a 5 mile limitation, so there would have to be 5 miles in between each of these things, and somehow I guess this is a cumulative thing, so you have to have 10 miles in between these two varying products or something along those lines. And of course that would you wouldn't be able to get far enough away from the other product here in Josephine County in order to do it. So that's kind of the issue with that. And I tend to think that 4 or 5 miles, you probably are still going to get some pollination, because if you get a wind whipping through here and some plant is raining pollen, it's gonna land on a plant 5 miles away.
And some people use
I wouldn't doubt that at
helicopters
all.
for dusting, and so
Right.
every time you do that. So here's the bottom line on this. There are a number of people in the cannabis industry who are saying, the only reason that they want to grow hemp is because hemp has a tendency to take over marijuana. They don't like marijuana for all various reasons, and so they're going to suddenly, all of them, be hemp promoters.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question is, why is Cheryl Walker not recusing herself from every decision, sending out a letter to the state legislators, every decision dealing with marijuana and hemp, when she stands to profit?
Mm-hmm.
And why is it that Darren Fowler, the mayor, is getting involved in decisions about banning outdoor growth, with free sunshine, of marijuana, when they have to pay for artificial sunshine that he will install for them?
Yes, these are conflicts, yeah.
Money, 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 money. And suddenly we see people becoming super supportive of hemp. Hemp? Really? I love rope made out of hemp. Okay, but are you going to profit from this? Follow the money, or at least ask yourself a question about that. Okay, so now, at long last, here is the little piece of video. You ask yourself, okay, $125,000 for each deputy. Now, we talked with the sheriff. You saw the video where he said, or where right after the video he said this, but we told you they did. Gee, I'd be happy with 2 extra patrol deputies. The big question is, will they be there long enough? Was there longevity? Now, if this levy had passed, it would give them 5 years of funding. Now, what would you think if we could give you 4 years of sustainable funding? 4 straight years. So what you won't hear, this is how they're restricting themselves. They're not thinking this through. The guy is supposed to be our mathematician, okay, our finance director. Well, here are the opportunities. We could do nothing. Okay. We could fund all of the deputies all in 1 year. Well, I don't know if that's a real smart idea, because they're going to have a job in a year. Who's going to come to a place where you have just one? You could divide it in half. Yes. And you could have, instead of 8, you'd have 4 deputies for 2 years. Well, I guess it could possibly be 3. Now, what happened to, maybe that's not 4. Okay, what happened to, what if the idea is, and this is what I talked to the sheriff about, and this is what we're going to talk to him about on Monday. Please consider, Sheriff, this is where he told us this. If you say 2 might be good, okay, he said, yeah, I'll take 2. You could have 2 deputies times 125 for 4 straight years from 1 year in. And the only thing you need to worry about is, will that be extended past this year? Because 1 year will get you 4 years. If they extend it, then this could potentially be done, even every 4 years, and then you would have 2 deputies for the rest of your life. They'll both be assigned to the day to watch over Simon Hare at the weekly business session, because we have a deputy in there when the weekly business session is going on, because you never know when Mike's going to run berserk through the audience, hooting.
It happens.
It's an absolute essential that you need to have an armed deputy in the weekly business session, because it's chaos.
Mm.
And you've seen that from all the videos that we've shown you. So, Mike, While the people are thinking mathematical thoughts, play back this about 12-minute excerpt, but you'll find it mostly interesting. Thank you very much.
I think the main issue we wanted to talk about was some road dollar options. Some road dollar options. I don't know that this is necessarily comprehensive, but it basically puts it into three categories. I think one is do nothing, one is transfer for current needs, one is transfer for future needs. So I'll go through each one of those, I guess, if you'd like, or
please.
Okay. So what the first option when we're talking about transferring road dollars, which is U.S. Forest Service monies, what we got this current year as a shared receipt was $74,000. With the extension of SRS, we're getting closer to $1 million with the shared U.S. Forest Service county roads and county schools money. So that's the money that comes in, and we split it 75% to county roads and 25% to county schools. That's the money we're talking about. That's that the legislature said can be used to help pay for rural patrol.
So the total dollar amount that we could use is
$1 million. I'll just say in a round number, $1 million.
That's the maximum we could use.
Right. That's how much we got in the current year revenue. So which came in last week. Okay.
So that doesn't affect what goes to the schools.
Correct. It does not affect, because their 25% is set aside. It has to go. Our 75% is $1 million. So,
okay.
So our current budget for 16-17, or I'm sorry, our current budget for 15-16 is basically parity with the 14-15 budget.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is that for what the budget committee approved, and with the city deciding to renew their jail bed contract, the sheriff
Did they decide that last night?
Monday night, yeah. And, well, Monday night they had the discussion, and I was notified yesterday by Jay Meredith that they had decided that they go through. They still need to work out the details. It's the June 17th when they'll, do the signature stuff on the plan. But according to him, we can go ahead and anticipate that we will have, I think it's $972,000.
So they said they're going to give us the $972,000.
Jail bed contract.
They're still trying to decide how they're going to raise it.
Exactly how they're going to fund that. Yeah. But they said the 972 is a solid number that we can use.
Okay.
So given that puts our 15-16 budget pretty much on an equal keel with our current 14-15 budget. So that's our option number one, is saying no change. We basically have the same patrol that we have right now, for next year, which is a 10-hour patrol, 10-hour per day patrol for next year, same as we have this year. No change, no need to transfer road dollars to supplement the budget, because the budget is equivalent to what we currently have. So that's really option number one. Option number two is to transfer the road dollars and to look at it maybe in one of two ways. The legislation expires January 2nd of 16. So as far as we know, we can transfer road dollars now, unless the legislation gets extended, which, maybe is, maybe won't, but at least from what we know right now, we can transfer road dollars now. We will not be able to transfer them next budget cycle. So we can transfer now. We can transfer now and spend it all in this current year. Okay, that's option 2A. Transfer the dollars now, increase the sheriff's rural patrol, go through the recruitment, hiring, training process, which takes about 6 months, 9 months, and then we would lay the people off in June of 16, assuming that there's no continuation of the House Bill 4175. Probably not the best plan in all. I'll say option 2B is transferring the money and spending it now, but only spending half. Transfer the money, half for this year, half for the 16-17 year. So that way, whatever increase we get in rural patrol would be sustainable for 2 years. So instead of having 3 months worth of increased patrol, you know, by the time they get recruited and trained and on the road, we would have a year and 3 months or a year and 6 months, whatever that span is from when they get on board to June of 17. Okay, so that's kind of option 2B. Transfer the money, spread it over 2 years, and we can then have something sustainable through June of 17. The issue with both of those is that, you know, one person could say you're just kicking the can down the road. You're kicking it to June of 16 or June of 17. There's still no long-term sustainable what happens after those road dollars go away. So that's an issue that needs to be thought about and considered in that. The third option is to transfer the money now, but to save it for the 17-18 budget. Basically, maintain our 10 hours a day this year, 10 hours a day next year, but in the 17-18 budget, the money that we transferred today, road dollars that we transferred today, could help smooth that rapid decline. So rather than laying off everybody, we may be able to sustain for a third year that 10-hour-a-day patrol. So that's what those are the three options, I believe. Either status quo, no transfer, spend it this year, next year, or transfer and save it for the third year. I think the larger question is, you know, are we bridging a gap, or are we just delaying the inevitable? So hard to predict the future on that one. Will we get, you know, will the House Bills 4175 get extended or not? Will SRS funding get extended or not? We've only got a 2-year SRS. It ends June of 17. So,
well, HJR 91.
Well, yeah, 21. Well, that happens. So a lot of things depend on things that we don't know, and hard to predict. We do know that, and this is item number 6, just for the record, if we transfer road dollars, that will have a negative impact on public works and will have a negative impact on our long-term ability to respond to any kind of an event or emergency, which we have, not only fire, but flood. And we're not just talking about the 6th Street Bridge, we're talking about all the culverts and the minor bridges that we maintain around the county. So there will be an impact on that.
Have you sent this to Rob at all?
I have not sent this to Rob, no.
It's been sent to the sheriff?
No, I created this morning, okay. So
I would love to have Rob and the sheriff.
That's a great idea.
See this, and to make some response as quickly as they're comfortable with to us, so that we can have some better idea what this means as far as the implementation end of things go.
Okay, I will do that. I think that's a great idea. The other thing, just for give it context here, as of right now, since we have the promise of the city contract, we will be able, we won't have to lay off a bunch of sheriff deputies at this point in time. What that means is we can adopt the budget as approved by the budget committee, and then give us a little breathing room to decide exactly how we want to implement this. And we can put forward a supplemental budget once that you know, give it time to talk about it, figure out what we want to do, so we can put a supplemental budget together and run that either July or August or whatever the appropriate time is. To include the city and to include any road dollars that we want to transfer.
Yeah. Okay, now the road dollars, I was talking to Dave yesterday in regards to fleet issues. We haven't bought cars in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and the cars that they're out there in have been, I mean, they're past the time to replace.
Mm-hmm.
So if we hire, say we hire 2 or 3 officers,
Mm-hmm.
and we need another car or 2. You don't need a car for every one of them because they work different times. But if we had to buy a couple of cars,
Mm-hmm.
how much would that be? I've heard different numbers. It's $100,000 for the officer,
Oh, for the officer, not the vehicle.
and then
Well, operating cost, I mean, the capital cost of purchasing the vehicle would be incurred by the fleet, utilizing the equipment reserve, and then it would increase the mileage charge or the fleet charge to the sheriff's budget because they're running more cars, you know, and it costs per mile. In round numbers, what we usually say is that a patrol deputy costs $125,000 a year for salary and operating costs, materials, services, cars. That includes the car, yeah. And just in round numbers, because it really depends. You know, we're talking about a beginner deputy, an intermediate deputy, an advanced deputy can make a lot of difference in the total cost. But just in round numbers for budgeting purposes, we say around 125.
okay, so when I talked to him, and of course he said this yesterday at the meeting, is I asked him how he was going to recruit. He said he could recruit laterals that we don't have to train.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in another conversation I had with him that was not at the meeting yesterday, he knows of some that are going to be leaving different departments, so they already are trained. Or we contemplate leaving a department because they're already trained. So if that's the case, could we, at this juncture, say, okay, we can hire these people and tell them we will hire them for 2 years, at least. Is it possible for us, I know we can say that because we have the 2 years of SRS and we have the road dollars. Is there any way that we could extend this beyond to 3 years if we took enough money to do that? Because I know I don't hold out much hope that that House bill would be renewed. The reason being is that it depends on who is in control of the legislature.
Yeah.
So I just don't hold out a lot of hope at this juncture that that would be what would happen, unless there's a real concerted lobby to do so. And I don't know that the 2 or 3 counties that are the issue would be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't want us to count on that.
Yeah.
But if we could at least say, yeah, we will hire you for 2 years and possibly 3 that we know of.
Well, it's, you know, there's a limited amount of revenue available.
Right.
And if we're saying 2 people, we can say that's $250,000 per year for two new patrol, which times 3 years, this year, the 15-16 year, 16-17, 17-18, of course, then that's $750. So that's well within the available budget. Yeah, okay. So the hiring of the deputies, I know there's a lot of jail folk that used to be deputies that would like nothing more than to get back on the road. So, but I think we do have to talk to the sheriff to say what would
Right, I'm not saying
those 2. I mean, the 2 deputies, does that change it from 10 hours a day to 11 hours a day? I don't know what that does, or
I think one thing.
I'm sorry.
The one thing that should happen first is that the sheriff ought to know,
Yeah.
so he can inform all of his people there will be no layoffs.
Right.
And as of June 30th.
Right. Well, and actually, we've mentioned that to him at this point, with the city saying that yes, so he knows that. As far as increasing that,
Now what do we do?
That's a different discussion.
See, what I'm saying is if we take money from Public Works,
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather take a lesser amount of money and hire someone that knows they're gonna have a job for 3 years, than to, I'm not saying lesser, I didn't mean lesser amount of money. Take, for instance, the $750,000, that we could say, yes, we're gonna hire 2 officers and we know we'll have them for 3 years. They'd be more likely to come here, rather than hire 4 and say, well, we don't know what's gonna happen next year.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? That way we would know that we would have those 2 positions. Because right now what we're lacking is not so much, and we have the people out there for 10 hours a day, but they don't have backup.
Yeah.
You know, we need another person out there for backup. On those
Well, I'd like also, that would be a question, I think, for the sheriff to
Yeah.
answer too. Which would the sheriff prefer? Does the sheriff prefer the longer term or the shorter term with more individuals, you know, to be able to
Right.
have him say, yeah, this is what my preference
Yeah,
would be.
so I think that would be one, you know, since you're gonna present this to him, I mean, I can talk to him too, because I'm liaison, but, but if you're gonna be doing this and giving him those options,
Right.
talking to him about the finances of those options, then I think that that would be something I would like for him to consider, say, okay, if we say we could do this, would it be preferable to have, you know, be able to hire 2 lateral types so we don't have to train them, so we can get them on the road within, you know, 60 to 90 days, and have vehicles for them, and know that we can keep them for 2 or 3 years, because we're, you know, we're taking that money now and then you have to carry it over each year.
Correct. Yep.
Rather than say, oh yeah, go ahead and give her, you know, 750,000 and hire 5 officers, you know,
Right.
because next year you wouldn't be able to do that at all.
They'd be gone, yeah.
They'd be gone.
Actually logical debate happening there. Seemed like to me.
Suddenly everyone's a Rhodes Scholar.
Yes.
Now, please note, everybody, please note, a couple things is, one is the finance director has not, from the very beginning through this meeting, has not talked at all about that supposed $8 million is in reserve. He's not talking about that here either. He's talking about new money that's coming in. What about the $8 million, Pete? That's not even on the table. They're not even discussing that. It's not considered at all. And the other thing is, you can do math just as well as I can. You can have 2 deputies for 4 years. Why is he stopping at 750? $1 million would be 2 deputies for 4 years. Why does he almost did. Did you hear that? He said, well, then you could have 2 deputies for 3 years, and that'd be 750. And then he stops himself and he goes on to the next subject. The in there to me is, or
yes. However, they were throwing a lot of different scenarios out. So, I mean, it's kind of like calling, you didn't discuss the scenario that I liked.
Well, we did.
Know.
I called the sheriff. Okay. So you in our audience know more than Simon Hare does at this moment. You know more. Well, the sheriff, if he's listening, he now knows more. He knows no more. Never again will he know. He now knows more than most people. You know more than, because you're in our audience, than just about everybody else. We're way ahead of the power curve on this. Okay, these are some of the thoughts. There's another question about whether the commissioner should be involved in the minutia, expensive minutia of spending of this, but you know more based on watching this show, tell your friends, than anybody else in the community about what the various options are. It's because you watch our show. Mike, what's your final comment, please?
My final comment, please push the button that stops the show. It's been on for 1 hour and 7 minutes.
But it was so fascinating, and
it was scintillating.
You were there when news was made.